We got a wonderful story to tell tonight. We have Raj and Kunjal. Let's go ahead and get started. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about, bring up the first slide. You can tell us a little bit about yourselves and what your background was.
Okay, hello everyone. My full name is Rajendra Vazir, but I go by Raj. And
it's a lot
my
easier.
wife, Kelly. Yeah, it's really short. I just cut all the letters off, just keep the 3. So we've been married since 1998, and we have 2 daughters, 18 and 13. One of them is actually at UT Austin. She got accepted last year and just completed her first year. She was supposed to be here with us, but she's taking summer classes, so she couldn't get out of it. But she's majoring in biology, but she's actually taking minor in business over the summer. So as you can see, we're kind of pushing our kids. The younger one is all going to high school next year. Myself, I studied in California. So we moved from California from 2005 to Texas due to we wanted to be in business. In California, obviously, even at that time, it was so pricey that it didn't make sense because pretty much we'd be owning business and we'd be just working for the mortgage company because it's so pricey out there. So because we had my sister already moved out here to Texas, so we figured looking out of here. So we ended up actually purchasing a motel out here, but sorry, I skipped my engineering background. So I actually worked as an engineer in California, bachelor's of science, and moved out here to Texas, and I still worked as an engineer. And my wife Kelly actually ran the motel that we purchased. It was a small one. Then over time we purchased another one, and then we got into single family as well. But then we hit a roadblock where it was like we couldn't scale up anymore. So that's when we found Lifestyles. Heard Dell on the radio. And as we attended the expo in 2017 in April, and my wife just said, let's just join, because if we go back home and have second thoughts, we'll talk ourselves out of it.
So if you see the background of both Raj and Kunjal, that you would say they're pretty smart people, engineers and mathematicians, right? Don't you wish you would have been on board and had your real estate education well before yeah, of course.
As he said, we've been working over like 20.
You got to get close to the microphone. They can't hear you.
Yeah, we were like if we learned earlier, it would be nice because we're still working 24/7 in our small business motels. Mm-hmm. It's making good money, but still like we are switching with the time.
Yeah, it's one of those turnkey businesses, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the time is the key. Like, we are spending a lot of time in our personal businesses. So this one, the multifamily, is really, we hope that we have learned earlier than 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah, another big thing is you're both very meticulous, very organized, very conservative, correct?
Yeah.
On all your numbers. I know they're very analytical. When they both try to decide where to go to dinner, it takes 4 hours, right?
Looking at the numbers, yeah. So yeah, she has a math background, as you can see. She's got a master's in mathematics and computer science, and I got the.
So I think you told us a little bit. You came on board. You attended the expo in 2017, and you came on board. One of the things that did you invest passively as a passive investor in some other investments first, or did you get straight into lead investing?
No, so we did start out passively because obviously we were still doing a lot of other stuff. And when we go through the training, the 2-day, they do teach you that if you get into multifamily and you purchase a property, you actually have to, be retired or quit your job, and this has got to be your main focus. So I wasn't ready at that time.
The good news for both of them, as being a passive investors, it was continued education for them. It helped them learn to become good lead investors by understanding and following the operations and to see the progression of all their other investments that they were in. So being a passive investor can at some point in time lead into a lead investor, as it did for both of you. The other thing we talk a lot about, and you mentioned your 18-year-old daughter who can't be with us, that's studying, but you'll see a lot of legacy around Lifestyles and Unlimited. You'll see children that'll grow up that have learned from their parents. We have several examples of that in Central Texas, that people have gone on to buy properties and be lead investors and run their own properties as a result of the continued education, not only they got from Lifestyles, but from their family as well of owning and operating properties.
We just invested as a passive investor in one of the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like last month.
Yeah, so she's a passive and certified.
Good.
Got her.
Fantastic.
So we got her going as well. So yeah, she'll be turning 19, so we got to get her own membership now.
All right. So,
They're free till they hit 19, then you gotta
Exactly.
pay.
Take advantage while you can. And she also works for us with our management company. So she's learning, ropes as
That's
well.
awesome.
okay, so we're going to go to Hondo, Texas, talk about Las Palomas,
Palomas.
and tell us a little bit about it, the vintage, so forth.
So yeah, so basically when we first started out, when we decided to become a lead, Kim was our mentor at the time from Austin, and we were looking at little properties because we had no experience in multifamily, but we did have a lot of experience in single family and whatnot. So he just looked at my background and he said, Raj, don't look at these little ones, 20, 30 units. And I had one of my other KP, who's actually my KP now, also recommended this advice too. He said, don't look at the little one because it's going to be requiring a lot of work. So he looked at our background and says, you have the finances, you have your real estate background, so just go big. So our first deal was 108 unit.
Yay, you went big right away.
And everybody was like, what are you doing? So anyways, it was a scare. I mean, it was like we were nervous for sure. But yeah, this was actually in Hondo, which is about 35 minutes out. So it's considered like a tertiary market, being in the city is like the first one and you're like a little bit out, you're secondary. This one is way out there. If you, let's just say this is the only property, this one, and there's another property that actually, we took it down together. The seller was actually selling two properties, and we were not capable, but we were kind of nervous of taking two down. So we actually had one of the agent that was working with us. She got us another lifestyle lead. So we took this property down together, this one and the other one, and we actually share management resources and everything too. So that helped us a lot.
So you obviously you brought some investors, passive investors in it. You've currently got 40 investors in this deal. Tell us a little bit about what was your minimum investment in this deal?
So the minimum investment on this one, when we first started out, as a lot of people do, they're skeptical, whatnot. So we didn't want to invest too much. So we actually, on our property, we have $25,000 the minimum. And actually we started out that, and what turned out, we didn't put a limit. So we had a bunch of 25,000 investors. And as we realized, like, oh, we better cap this off. And
so
but we do have several.
40 investors. So if you'll notice, they raised $2.1 million. So what I want you to remember as you're sitting, it's not a couple people that are bringing a couple $1 million. It's all of the member base coming together. There's 40 investors at a minimum of $25,000. So think about this as we talk about these rate of returns. If you were a $25,000 investor, so your initial financing was
Hold on, Doug, can I ask another question?
Yeah.
Were all 40 of your investors right here in San Antonio, or are they from other areas?
Doing nothing.
Yeah,
No,
but
they're all
where are they from?
No, we had them from California, so they're across the states.
And the reason I want to bring that up, guys, those of you watching online, there's people from California, they could be from Hawaii. You don't have to live here. And of your 40 investors that are in this deal, how many actually physically came out and looked at the property? I just want to make another
Probably
point.
like 5 to 7 maybe, because we had a tour.
Feasibility.
But feasibility only. So yeah, they've never seen the property.
So just so you know, even if you're from out of state, you don't have to physically come to every property you invest in. If the numbers make sense and the business plan makes sense, you can invest in it from all across the
Yeah, so your mentor is going to help you, educate you to understand if this investment meets your criteria. You don't have to go to the property. You don't ever have to go to the property. Your lead investor is going to continue to provide you with information every month. You're going to get the P&L statements. You're going to get balance sheets. You'll get an update on how the property is run. You'll get a progression report every month. So anyhow, so the other thing I wanted to point out before, you refinance this property in year 2.
That's correct.
Refinance. So here's the thing I want you to look at is the neat deal. Total cash out of pocket, $2.1 million, right? After 2 years, maybe a little longer, he returned $709,000 of that 2.1 million. Do the math on that. What's that rate of return just on that refinance? 30-some%? So in 2 years, you've already gotten over a 35% return on the investment, and you still have all your equity in it. Pretty good deal. Very good.
Yeah, we were surprised we were able to refinance, but yeah, the rates were dropping very quickly.
There's another important point about that. He just gave them back 35% return. How much taxes did your investors pay on that money you just gave them?
None.
Because the loan. Tell me that's not peeing your pants exciting. Give me hands for non-taxable money.
All right, so let's talk a little bit on what the monthly average income expenses look like on the property.
So yeah, income, we were actually able to raise it fairly quickly because the previous owner was not, they were under like about $100 or so still for rent. So when we went in, we rehabbed and we were able to get the income up. Expense, obviously, you know, all the expense that we were putting in were considered CapEx. So it's different from the regular expense, but our normal operating expense was about $43,000 and we're cash flow $20,000. Now this is, like I said, this is earlier. We were able to get it up to this level.
So right now,
it was low before.
The current cash on cash. Now again, he may not be distributing all of the money back, but as of right now, there was a 7% return on the business. So you know what? Tell us a little bit about what you've done, the things that you've achieved on the property. You know, obviously your goal when you came in was to, you know, to raise rents if you can.
Correct.
What are some of the other things that you've done on the property?
So immediately what lifestyle teaches is about, you know, best price, best product. So we started doing rehab. So a lot of these units that hadn't been upgraded in a while. So we did all new floorings, new painting. We started putting backsplashes on. We actually just ordered it from Amazon. It was a sticky one, but they look great. You may be able to see, and I can't remember if I put a picture on there for it. But when we had our tour, everybody's like, where did you get these? I mean, even our residents, our new residents, they love it. And then we also did a lot of exterior, you know, the drainage system, we improved it, sprinklers we added. Some of the things that was missing, there was no amenities, like so we added a kids park. What is it called? Kids park and a dog park. We added those two items.
And we'll show those pictures.
Yeah, they'll come in the pictures.
In a minute. But what I want to point out is the rents were below market, $80 to $100 a unit. And just by doing some of the simple things like inexpensive backsplashes, you know,
Correct.
Updated ceiling fans, you know, updated two-tone painting, you know, cabinets, hardware, just that extra gingerbread can easily drive those rents up just by doing those things. You have to know your resident base. You're not coming in to a tertiary market and putting granite countertops in. You know, we're not putting stainless steel refrigerators in. We're doing what's right for the market to maximize our rents.
Yeah, just resurfacing countertops existing, because we didn't have to add more for that.
All right, some before and the after, you know, see how dirty that ceiling fan is? You just updated it?
Yeah, we just made it LED, and like I said, there's a Home Depot, they're like $40 a piece, the hugger fans. Then one thing about the sign, that's all the sign they had, and then I've learned that for fire code, you actually have to have an address and everything, so we didn't really do a whole lot with the signage, but just we fixed it.
There's a huge thing on that sign. What's missing on the sign before?
There's no ad.
The address
There's no
and the phone number.
How would you call to say if you want to rent it if there's no phone number?
Yeah, and those letterings are different. It used to be just a vinyl thing, and what I noticed is when a gust of wind comes in, it just flies off. So I had to go back and stick it up every time. So now we got those screwed on ones. So each of those letters are all tight. And some people go cheap. They really go cheap. So
So
then I did Amazon.
There's some of the amenities that you put in. You put in playground.
Playground, yes.
There.
A playground. We added a pergola. We're actually adding more to the pergola to make it a little nicer too. And then we created a model unit there because they didn't have a model unit.
Yeah.
So we figured with 108 units, we can cut 1 unit to do a model, and it's right by the office, so it's really convenient to just walk them over there. And when they see most of this furniture is actually Walmart, but when people see it, they're like, "Wow, where did you get this? Can I get this one?"
Yeah.
It's surprising how some of the cheap thing looks really nice if it's presented properly. But you can see the counters are, just.
How excited he gets when he shows this Walmart crap. Oh, it's awesome. That's pretty excited for a type B personality. Yeah.
And you can also see that the cabinets we also painted. We're all, it makes it look nice. And some of the appliances we're upgrading, but not all right at the moment. And you can kind of see the back. There you go, backsplash right there. We tried that one in the left over there, but people didn't like that color. So we went with the gray and white color. Then that one stands out really nicely.
So the old nasty dark wood now has been upgraded to, the creamier white, black splashes.
Correct.
See how much cleaner that looks?
Yeah, the first picture shows you what the cabinets used to look like, and then the flooring. Yeah.
Yeah, good. And those backsplashes, they really look good, and they add a nice pop to it, and they're not that expensive.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I can give you a link. And also, you can see we did one of the other thing that looks really cool is that on the bathroom where the framing of the mirror, that wasn't there before too, and that makes it stand out. And that was a suggestion from one of our real estate agents actually.
And you know what? Putting hardware on, brushed nickel hardware really makes it stand out.
Everything's brushed nickel.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's talk a little bit about the income. The thing I want to point out here is you'll notice year after year.
Hold up a little higher, Doug.
You'll notice year after year as the income continues to grow, the net operating income, the cash on cash continues to grow. And by year 3, the projected cash for distribution is projected at 11.6. Now, investors may hold some back for additional reserves or things that they have planned, but what we're sharing here with you is the potential amount of cash on the books for distribution to the investors. This is the one that I always like to talk about. And remember the property value, they paid $6.3 million for it. You see that on the left? Now, based on their overall operating income, the property value is worth $8.8 million. What they pay for it? 6.3. So what I want to do just quickly is walk you through the math to give you an idea of what the equity capture and what does this mean to you as a passive investor. $8.8 million is the property value. Now, what do you have to do? You have to pay your lender back, right? You borrowed $6.1 million. You got to pay them back, right?
Yeah, that's a refi.
Paid. Huh?
That's a refi loan.
Yeah,
loan.
Right. And then the investors, how much did they invest? 2.147. Well, you got to return all their capital to them, right? All that needs to be returned back to you as an investor. Then over that 3 years, we saw in the previous one, there was $660,000 worth of distributions payable to you, the investors in that deal, over a 3-year. Remember we talked about the refinance in year 2? That $709,000 was paid out to the investors as well. So once all that's done, there's an equity capture of close to $2 million. What we invest in the deal. Remember 2.147, you see it at the top, out of pocket? How would you like to invest accumulatively $2.1 million and after a 3-year period get 1.9 back? 92% rate of return in 3 years. Congratulations to both of you. That's a nice job.
Thank you.
The thing I really like, and I when I talk to members, I like to talk about this refinance because that's really key. You know, we have members today that are invested in 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 different investments. Do you think they started out in a cash position to invest in 20 different deals? No, they didn't do it like that. They did it through this refinancing that occurs on many properties. As you improve the property, you now can go borrow more money and return those refinance proceeds to your investors. What do you do with those refinance proceeds? Well, you go invest in the next deal and the next deal and the next deal. Now all of a sudden you got 15, 16, 18 deals that you're invested in. So that's how this occurs, and this is how you can grow your portfolio that way. So I know you guys, how has it changed things for you now? I mean, you know, it's got to feel good that you've got Las Palomas. You've gone on now. You've bought another property.
That's correct.
In a tertiary market.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's a secondary now because San Antonio is creeping up pretty quick here. So yeah, it actually did open up our eyes with income. I mean, we my wife and I always talk about, we woke up when we learned more about it, but it's always like when you wake up in the morning, make that your day. You woke up, now go grunt and take it down what you need to do. But that's how we feel like we worked so hard all these years, but then now that we woke up, we're kind of moving faster. So we just closed our second property in December. It's in Castroville, which is 15 minutes closer to San Antonio. And that's already 6 months into it. And we're about to distribute on that one here shortly. This quarter, actually, end of June.
My wife's excited because that's where we live.
Yes. And you guys came to help us out there too. That's good.
So you got some more traveling. I guess that's the COVID restrictions and everything, but
actually we haven't had COVID. We see COVID as the best year we had.
Wonderful.
Our motel year was awesome. We took down another property and our daughter got UT accepted. So this is actually an older picture. We've been traveling a lot more.
During COVID, all Lifestyles members were like, yeah, and everybody else said, kind of funny, isn't it? Do you know, I don't know, remember Doug, but last year, I think our members, just in this is our smallest office, CT, we took down 43 different apartment deals in the Central Texas area. Give everybody a hand for that. It was pretty awesome.
It was great.
All right, so tell us a little bit what lies ahead for both of you.
So now that like I said, we did wake up, so we're focusing on multifamily side. The short term, we want to acquire a little more properties. Eventually, we want to back away from things and be able to travel, how make more donations, and help others. Basically, we're already doing a lot of that stuff now, but we just want to take it to the next level, long term, and retire more people.
Any, you want to tell us a little bit about some of the people that were kind of on the journey with you and assisted you?
Yeah, so we've had several people on our journey, and Doug, you're one of our mentors right now.
There's been others, Kim McLean, past mentor.
Kim was our primary initial mentor, but he retired and just playing in the lakes now. I don't know if he's in here yet.
Teresa Harrell, is she still here? Is Teresa here?
Teresa's back there. She's helping us a lot.
So operation consultant, helping with, the overall day-to-day activity. Sure, she's there for them. So good. And you couldn't do it without all of your passive investors too. And so they're always good ones to call out. So we have any in the room? Any of the passive investors? Oh, okay, there they are. All right. Good.
Thank you, guys.
So anyhow, hey. Great job. Look,
it's funny. There's like 4 of your passive investors out of 40. Well, at least you had 10% show up to give you a hand.
Yeah.
The rest are just getting checks. They're happy.
Great story. Wonderful property. And some of the returns, I love seeing the potential equity on the backside based on where the property's at today, buying it at 6.3, now having an evaluation at 8.8. I could build an argument it's actually even higher that based on the cap rate calculations, but David will teach you about all that.
You got to realize all of our people, they're going to be conservative with the numbers. Who likes that they're conservative? Yeah, that's what we want them to be. Absolutely.
So
you want to take some questions?
Yeah, so let's start with our in-person group here. Yes, we got a question back there.
And just repeat it, Doug.
Yeah. About feasibility? Yeah, feasibility is when we go under contract on a property, we're going to do due diligence. We want to inspect what we're investing in. So when we go under contract, we'll set up a due diligence or feasibility. There'll be a group of our members. A lot of time it's investors that are going into that deal, and we will walk all the units. We want to see what the interiors look like. You know, we want to see what we're getting. We want to make sure we don't have any down units. If we have down units, you know, we want to take those into calculation on how much we need to invest in our rehab. We'll want to spend time on the exterior of the property. We'll want to scope plumbing lines. We'll want to check all the electrical panels out. What condition are the ACs in? What do the roofs look like? Everything is going to get inspected, and that will help us determine do we want to continue to proceed with this property? Do we need to raise more capital for more investments? Things of that nature. And so we have a better understanding of what we're purchasing. That's our feasibility.
If that sounds like Greek to you, I'll break it down even further in the weekend seminar. I'll keep it at third grade level because we do lease file audits. We do market surveys. We want to know all about this, but I'll break it down for you this weekend.
Yes, sir.
Do leads cooperate with passive investors that want to bring in 1031 money?
The question is, let me answer that. If you're a passive investor, let's say you hold a house and you want a 1031 into a deal, you cannot do that. A 1031, and I know it sounds like Greek if you're new, I'll explain this weekend. The entity must remain whole. That's under your Social Security. He has an EIN number, so you cannot do that. You could buy your own apartment, you can bring in other investors, but in your case as a passive, you couldn't do that. Now, if a lead decides to 1031 to another property, that you could do. So there's ways of doing it. There's ways you can't. It'd be deal specific, but I just want to make sure we answer your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, and you'll learn that as well. David will teach that, but there is a requirement that you have to invest in your own property, and it's at different levels depending on how many properties that you've acquired. So the first property, they'll put in a larger amount. Second one might be different, third one, and then we always tell passive investors they should be investing with leads that invest in their own property.
Yeah, and if you guys don't mind, that was actually one of the online questions. How much money did you guys put in a deal? They just want to know what you put in.
So
if you feel like sharing that.
Yeah, no, I could. It's a lifestyle requirement for the first property is 15% of the total raise.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we put in about 300 something. What is it?
Yeah.
So
in
he
this
put in
case,
300,000 of his hard-earned money himself. He put skin in the game.
That was definitely.
Does that help your question? See, I get right to the point. I don't dance around it. I'm like, what did you put in? You like my version?
Yeah, so it was a big chunk for us, and yeah, so
Yeah.
we're definitely going to make sure this property succeeds.
But he's also making that 90% return, right? He believes in his own project.
I'm an investor with the passives.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they make money, I make money. It goes, you know. So obviously, I want to make it. So I'm.
And who likes the lifestyles requires those lead to have a big chunk of their own money in? Yeah, we want them to have skin in the game. Yep.
Yeah.
Good question.
yes, sir.
Is there different rates for first, second, third time leads?
In terms of how the income that they make?
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
And you learn that newcomer orientation. We can't go through all that tonight, but yes, there is. There's different lead compensations.
Yeah, so we'll teach that compensation, what that looks like. David will teach that. And then as you become on our preferred vendor during orientation, when we educate you further, you'll learn every step of how our investors and lead investors are compensated.
And here, let me simplify that for everybody. I don't care what Raj makes. I care what I put in my pocket. Who's with me? What is my return on investment? What am I putting in my pocket? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. You have a question over there?
Terry? Okay, so let me answer the question. Is outside of increasing rents, were there all other type of income that you were able to acquire on the property?
So the previous owner actually had a laundry contract with CSC. Yes, a laundry company that they basically, when they made it 10 years ago or whatever, I don't know how long ago, but they got a big chunk up front. So the percentage that they were breaking down was so small for the owner. So luckily, it just happened that the thing already expired. So we renegotiated the contract with the laundry. So we got a bigger chunk instead of a smaller chunk. So we got that increase. Then we also, when we first went on the property, there was a bunch of satellites everywhere on the floor. used to be on the walls, but they had them taken down, but they were still on, it looked like a flower bed. So we had to come up with a solution. So we found this company, it was out of Alabama, I think, but they basically do like bulk TV internet providing service. And we installed that. So they basically install fiber all across to the buildings. We took on some cost initially, but basically that also allowed us to charge everybody, like the services, like they charge us $64, we charge $95. So we get a big chunk there. That's about $2,000.
So the bottom line is we maximize every opportunity for all other income on the property. And again, David will get into what all other income looks like during this 2 days.
And then pet rent.
There's literally 28 different ways he can raise this income. So there's lots of different ways. And he's looking at all these different avenues, and he's taught that.
Let's, what do we have on online here?
Yeah, take like 4 questions online too.
Okay, so first question I have is from Jerry, and Jerry said, what did y'all, or when did y'all make the first quarterly distribution, and what percentage net to passives?
I believe on this property, we did, after the first quarter, we did a distribution, if I'm not mistaken. If not second,
it was
second, but it was pretty quick. Yeah, it was pretty quick after we took over.
Folks know, typically our lead investors are conservative. So when they first buy a property, they're going to hold back the first quarter for reserves for what ifs. Who likes it to do that? And then afterwards, the second quarter is when they typically will distribute.
So I think we had planned on the first quarter because we bought it as a yield play. That might be something you explain, but we actually turned it into a hybrid. So when we went in and rehabbed all of that stuff, we kind of kept the money a little longer just so we can go and turn all the units and raise.
It's always good to have a certain amount of cash on the books. It's what we teach. So I always want to see on the balance sheets that we're healthy with cash on the books.
Correct.
Yeah, it's still there, the money. It's just they didn't give it out yet. You understand?
Yeah.
Okay, so next question is from John, and he said, can you expand on how you and other Lifestyles members with properties in the Hondo area cooperate?
Yeah, can you, because there's another lead investor, Jeff Ziegler.
Yeah, Jeff is the only one so Jeff property, which is a smaller 48 units, and ours is the 108 units. We took this down together, and we're the only 2 properties that are market rent. The rest, there's 2 other ones that are actually, they call them income-based or
low income.
Low income, yeah. So technically, we have no competition.
And the good news is the economies of scale. They can share resources if
like maintenance and management.
Yes.
You know, whether it's employees that there's some cost sharing that goes on, whether it's major expenses that you might have that you're buying. And the other thing is,
and equipment.
It's a real plus to have your neighboring property as a lifestyle member. Think about this. If this other property was not a non-lifestyles, do you think Raj could call him up and ask, what do you pay your maintenance guy? Do you think you could get that? What do you pay for your commodes? What do you pay for them? You know,
yeah, we share everything actually.
All the information.
So technically, so our property actually has the management, all this personnel, and we share with Jeffrey. But basically, we have same vendors. We use same kind of. We share everything basically. You know, if you
even
find
showers.
somebody.
Thank you, wife. But like they're saying, why is this so important? If you have a Sunoco here and this guy has an Exxon, they don't share anything. But Lifestyles believes in the abundance mentality. By us all sharing, we all grow together. Is that not cool? You know, and even in our own industry, other people don't do what Lifestyles does. Awesome. You have another one for us, Daniel?
Yep. Okay, so next question is from Bill, and Bill said, how long did it take you to become a lead after you became a preferred member? And then once you became a lead, how long did it take you to get your first property?
We became PIG members right away at the Expo 2017 in April. Then we started out as passives. And then, like I said, I had plans to become a lead after 2 years, but talking to Kim and he saw my background, it's like, you can do it now. So I think about 1 year later, we became leads. But we didn't close till like maybe another 8 months, just because we were looking at little ones for a while. And then we pivoted and kind of looked at the bigger units. But
yeah, and everybody has a different path. We have some people that join within 6 months early. We have some people 2 years later. Some people want to be passive first. Let me see how all the book work's done and all that. Let me get a few reports first. That's up to you how fast you want to go or whatever you feel comfortable with. Plus also he was running his own business at the
Yeah,
time.
so I was already familiar with a lot of the
Yeah.
stuff, background. the real
So
estate.
the other thing is all of our leads are certified. There's some extensive education they have to go through. You just don't raise your hand up and say, oh, you know what? I'm going to be a lead investor today. That's not how it works. There's a whole criteria of education. And even before you start that education, you're vetted out. We want to make sure you're ready to go through the program.
Correct.
Yeah, if you don't get the blessing of the mentor, we do not let you be a lead. Who likes the lifestyle says that? And they're all certified, you know, and if they're not certified, they don't get up here. They don't tell their story. It's what we do to protect the passives.
Okay, I got one last question and it's from Kenneth. And Kenneth said, what was your occupancy at the beginning and after?
How did your occupancy change?
So one of the requirements that the lenders require is like, there has to be 90% or above when we're closing. So they kept the vacancy above 90. But you know, usually when the seller wants to sell, they'll just put
Physically occupied.
physical occupied. So they'll put, you know, people, they call them purple Martians. But there's a bunch of people in there. So it looks nice, but then when you take over, you find out people aren't paying so it dropped a little bit when we did take over. But like I said, as we started moving, rehabbing and stuff, we slowly got it back up. So we actually kept it around 92, 93.
And that's not what you'll find out with every property. If we buy a distressed asset, you might see the vacancy go down substantially, and you need to be prepared for that. And we teach that. And David will walk you through some examples on the 2-day, what happens when the vacancy dips and how does that overall look on your income. It's an interesting story that he tells.
Yep, and we do have a lot of family that live in that town, so nobody like just kind of walks off.
Well, again, both of you, Raj, Kunjal, thank you very much for giving back, sharing your
Thank you.
story with that. Thanks for being here.